Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, the Atlanta Falcons select Bijan Robinson.
And most people hope to fall in love just one time in their lifetime, but did anybody fall in love Thursday?
And last but not least, and for the culture, at least Lamar Jackson got paid. That's all coming up next right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. Remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate that from you in advance. It is ATL Day Ones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more with FanDuel Sportsbook. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to learn more. But T, when you think about last night, I was getting revved up. We were all suited and booted yesterday, and we talked about who we think the Falcons should pick or who we would pick with our ATL Day One's mock draft. If you missed that, go check it out and follow along because, the second round starts tonight.
Yeah.
You never know. It might go down. But when all the anticipation, all of the things that, we've been speculating over months, it finally came, T, and the Falcons selected Bijan Robinson. Obviously, people can probably know where I'm going on this one, but I would love to hear your initial reaction when you heard that Bijan Robinson is going to be a Falcon.
I was mad at myself because I literally said, why did I think that Flowery Branch was going to go defense? Why, Tenitra? Why? When people show you who they are, believe them. They showed us 2 years ago. They showed us last year. And now they're showing us this year.
Absolutely.
That emphasis is on the offense, and making it better and building something that looks similar to the Titans, but could very well be better. But I'll be honest with you. That was my first thought. Like, really, Tenitra? You actually thought they were going to go defense? Bless your heart.
Yes, bless your heart, indeed. And I think that when overall, and just my initial thoughts were, of course, I was, saddened. I won't say I was upset. That's a little extra. I was a little bit sad because, obviously, I feel like the defense needed to continue to upgrade, and you needed to take a chance and use some of that first round draft capital. I know a lot of people have been saying like, "Oh yeah, they can do that in the second round. They can do it in the third round." And I'm just like, no. My whole thing is when it comes to what you prioritize as an organization, it's just like you mentioned, T. They have drafted people who can catch the football 3 years in a row, and I feel like they're kind of hiding behind that whole best player available piece. Because if that's the case, then if this is truly best player available, then you're telling me that you all value offensive players more so than defensive players. Because we know in the past there have been guys who've been uber talented that they passed up on. So, and they passed up on a guy that I feel like is a super talented guy, and I feel like he's going to be able to be a solid, if not game-changing type of prospect in Jalen Carter. So, when you think about where this team stands, I think that Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot are in a place where the offensive coordinator is the head coach of this team, and he has a certain type of culture that he wants to establish in running the football. He ran the football more so, than anyone in the NFL last year, and he was ranked the third rushing team in the NFL last year. And all of these picks have gone along with that when you talk about especially on Bijan Robinson. And I really feel like you're in a space right now where you need to say what it is, because we see what it is. I feel like right now is, we want to be able to establish something on the offensive side of the football that can be one of the best offenses in the league. And I feel like that's the expectation going forward for me. I'm looking at least 30 points a game, T. That's where I am right now.
Well, what I'm looking at is UGA and my excitement around what I saw in this first round. Again, for them, just another crazy haul. You can call it what you want. You can call it UGA North if you feel like it.
Yes.
You can just do any and everything with whatever you want. All I know is I was smiling because, like you said, when 1 through 7, were announced, the thought was, okay, here we go. 8 is open. What are you going to do? But honestly, we kind of all knew they weren't going with Jalen Carter. You and I were just excited about that. Like, no, that was just emotion, not an intellect. However, the Eagles used their intellect to go for Jalen Carter at 9. They moved up to get him. Then the Steelers turned around and moved up 14. Yes, they did to get Broderick Jones. They sure did. Yes. And then the Eagles turned around and rounded it out to get Nolan Smith with that 30th pick. So once again, Jarvis, the excitement about what goes on in Athens and how it's going to build. And let me ask you this question. One of the other things I was excited about, obviously, I want to just say 3 quick things, right? And I want to hear your thoughts as well. But first of all, Nolan Smith, I was excited for him because he was that guy who people had all over the place. Some had him at the top of the first round, the bottom of the first round, in the second round, all over the place. So I'm excited because I think he goes to a place where, okay, if your knock on him was, oh, yeah, he was only good because he was behind Nakobe Dean, Jordan Davis, and Jalen Carter. Well, guess what? He'll have his time to shine again because he's got all 3 of them again. So I like that for Nolan Smith. Of course, being a Steelers fan, I really like Broderick Jones because I feel like the Falcons and Steelers are very similar in terms of that quarterback situation, that running back situation, and the need to get more bodies in the trenches. So I like that the Steelers picked up Broderick Jones. That's a good look. But Jalen Carter, I like this for a couple reasons, Jarvis. Number one, he still landed in the top 10, so that's still top 10 money. Maybe not number 1 money, but it's still top 10 money. Number 2, those brothers of his from his UGA days, I believe they're going to wrap their arms around him and they're going to make sure that he's set up for success. Also, I was texting with my guy, Hugh Douglas, and there are a lot of guys in Hugh Douglas's camp, those guys who are still in Eagles Nation, Hall of Famers like Hugh, meaning Eagles Hall of Famers, that are ready to make sure that Jalen Carter succeeds. So if he wasn't going to land here in Atlanta Metro, I don't think there could have been a better place for him.
Yeah, that's and that was the main point because that's why I felt like he'd be a good fit here because you have guys like Grady Jarrett, David Onyemata, and Calais Campbell. So all of those guys were a nice little nest egg, so to speak, and you kind of surround him and put, like you said, put your arms around him and like, hey man, here's what you need to do. And Jalen Carter even talked about it in an interview with our own Maria Martin, talking about how, hey, like I want to be able to learn from guys and learn how to operate on the next level. And because we know he has a talent, it's just a matter of him putting it all together. And we understand why the Falcons didn't draft him. But, you know, when you look at it as far as moving forward, it's going to be very interesting to see how these picks play out because we know this is going to be a conversation that's going to be happening for at least the next 8 to 10 years or however long these guys are going to be in the NFL. Now, T, last night, you know, I had my laptop going. I had my doggone TV, big screen TV going. So, you know, that was a little flex right there. You know, and watching the draft as well. So I just asked you straight up, how did the Hawks lose this game last night, T?
Well, the better team finally played like the better team in the closing minutes. The Celtics were always the better team. Whether they got game 7 in this series or game 6, they just have more guns. And their guns would do things like in the third quarter, for example. Al Horford, who had been looking like Grandpa Al at many stretches of this series, finally looks like that versatile. Deadly. Exactly. Yes. And I literally, so I'm sitting on a different side of the arena last night, and that means I'm sitting on, in this second half, I'm sitting on, you know, this side of the court. And when the ball left his hands, I was like, number 1, he's making that 3, and number 2, the Hawks are in trouble if Al Horford's touch is back tonight, or if Marcus Smart's touch is back, or anybody not named Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown. And every Celtic seemed to step up when they needed to. And unfortunately, like you and I said, it was going to need to be another full 9-man rotation effort for the Hawks to really have a chance. And the whole 9-man rotation just did not show up for the whole 48 minutes.
Yeah, and And I think that, towards the end of the game, like you mentioned, there were some things that showed up that
Yes.
that explained to you why this team was 41-41.
Indeed.
And like with the turnover, John Collins had a turnover that was silly. Trae Young had a turnover that was silly with a lazy pass, and then DeJounte Murray driving to the lane, not really having that awareness. Like, okay, he's right on you, right? He's going to block that layup attempt. So all of those things started to shine through in those waning moments because we knew that they had to be played perfect in order to beat this team, and they just weren't able to put it together last night. But we'll definitely be talking about what does this mean for the future of the Atlanta Hawks on Monday. So make sure you guys stick around for that. But first, we gotta talk about this before we get out of here, T. How about this? Michael Harris is back. Thoughts?
Woo!
Yes.
Yay!
Yes,
And who's our
yes,
guy?
yes,
Sam
yes.
Hilliard, who's
Yes.
been in relief. Sam Hilliard has
I need to play.
right?
That's his name. I need to
Yes.
play.
I like it.
I need to play.
If you get a nickname on ATL Day Ones, that means you're doing something right. So
Absolutely.
Sam Hilliard played lights out. And once again, that was one of those Alex Anthopoulos diamonds in the rough that showed up bigger than any of us could have expected. So at least we know that there's a guy, and they can actually shift him around the outfield too. So that's a good thing for the Braves as well. But Michael Harris II is Michael Harris II.
Yes.
And
Amen.
coming into this critical 4-game series with the Mets, especially when you drop the 4th game in the series with the Marlins. And yes, it all counts because these are still divisional matchups. I don't care how early. These are the types of games where when you start talking about head-to-head ties down the road, could bite you in the butt. So to get him back, to me, right at the apex of going to Queens and really seeing what you're made of and really seeing what the Mets are made of this season, you couldn't ask for a better time for him to come back. And Jarvis, we know, if Michael Harris II wasn't ready, then they wouldn't be trotting Money Mike out in Queens.
Absolutely
but
not.
the Braves must see something in him that
Given
tells
how
game
I'm ready to play his plan.
ready to rock
Mr.
and
Hilliard.
roll.
Yes. So
Indeed.
So I think that in this another cool thing that I'm interested to see, because people been asking about Marcell Ozuna, about where he fits and going forward, and like, why don't they just DFA this dude and pay him his money and go on about his business.
Right.
I really am interested to see how Snicker and Alex Anthopoulos handles this situation, because now that Michael Harris is back, and now that you know that Sam here, you can play some ball, and you can move him over to left field because he's a pretty good doggone defender as well.
Absolutely.
So
You can put
and
wherever.
he's been proving that time and time again. So I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. And obviously, super excited that Michael Harris is back, because you talking about a guy that young of an age talking about having back issues. It's like, oh, wait a minute. So,
I know.
but
That's
so
a
we
great
knew they
point.
were going to be patient with that one, T. So
Back and knee issues when you're that young are always freakish. And not that we have much time to say it, but Jarvis, if we're going to throw a little shade, we're going to throw the right shade. Raciel Iglesias, we need you back too, because we can't be having 5 home runs. You can't be tagged in the 9th inning with 5 runs, AJ Mentor. That's not the answer. Okay.
You're right, T. We don't have time to talk about that, because
That's what
Lord knows we can go for the rest of the pod for that one. But coming up next, yes, we're going to dig all deep into this whole Bijan Robinson pick. So make sure you stick around for that. But first, we got to talk about Built.com. You know how we've been telling you guys about how T and I have been getting down, have been doing our thing. We've been getting right, working out. We've been using Built bars, whether it be a churro puff or a coconut brownie puff or the new peanut butter puff that they just dropped. They have all the type of different flavors right there for you. What, 17 grams of protein is right there for you. All you need, everything right there was what you need. So, I've been telling you guys to go to Built.com, right? Here's the thing. If you're tired of ordering online, you want to get out the house, or you're coming from the gym and you're trying to figure out, I need to go get me a big old box, you can go to Sam's Club and Walmart. And if you want to get the small box, you can go to Walmart. You want to get the big boy box, go to Sam's Club and check out Built.com.
Now, Jarvis, you're married. You've been married for what, a decade now?
Yeah, almost 11 years. Yeah.
Exactly. So you know what it feels like to be in love. And although I don't have a ring on it quite yet, I do know how it feels to be in love and to love something or somebody, right?
Right.
Well, I think we liked the pick last
I
night.
like the player. Let me say, I like the
Yeah,
player.
but
I
I
like the
don't
player.
know that we loved it. I don't know that we were in love with the pick of Bijan Robinson at number 8. Now, look, everybody, we are excited, like you said, about the player. This guy really is versatile and he can do so many things. I mean, he's that guy who he can run up and down the field, or he can be a bruiser like Tyler Algier if needed. He can catch out of the backfield. We're talking about the guy who was 4th in receptions on Texas team last year, right? And every year he's jumping 8 receiving touchdowns for a running back. That's pretty darn impressive. And I
Right.
keep talking about that piece because we do know that the versatility is what was the most attractive thing to Arthur Smith, right? So needed to preface by saying it's fine. We understand the rationale for going after him. But Jarvis, you liked it, but you didn't love it. Before we get into the nitty gritty, who, not named Jalen Carter, would have made you say, "Ooh, I love this pick"?
Wow. I think I was on board with you from the standpoint with your mock draft. By the way, if you haven't seen that, man, go check out that mock draft. From a cornerback standpoint, I was starting to come around on that, right? Because when you saw David Witherspoon, goodness gracious, the man is just super uber aggressive. Like we talked about David Witherspoon. I'm just like, and from what I'm hearing or I have heard, that the Falcons were really liked
Yes,
him as well.
they
So
did.
that I would have absolutely loved that because it would have made sense, right? Like you talking about building something out and continue to stack the deck on defense. I want them to have more than enough guys that can go out there and do what they need to do on Sunday because that defense has been so like not having guys that anybody can game plan for or anybody that they're scared of. Like we've been talking about for years, like, oh yeah, we know Grady Jarrett. Yeah, everybody knows they got a game plan for him. That's cool. But when you think about outside of that, you don't like nothing, especially up front, specifically up front. So that is a problem in my eyes. And I don't mind admitting my bias as well. I'm a former defensive lineman. So yeah, I want to see some guys put their hand in the dirt that I know on 3rd and long going to get home. That's it. And however you feel about that, that's fine. I don't care. But as of right now, T, like I did some digging, right? So I started doing a little research. Like guys who projected as a start on the defensive line, all of them are over 30 or at the age of 30. So who's the guy you're gonna pass the baton to and contribute right now and be a game changer right now? Because Terry Fontenot said it himself. He said best player available is about thinking about the future as well. So I'm like, all right, man. Okay, Tyler Algier is going to be around here for at least 3 more years. He got 1,000 yards. That record, he broke a rookie rushing record that hadn't been broken since 1979. And William Andrews, for you old Falcon fans, I know who I'm talking about. So I'm like, okay, that's where the disdain comes in. You know what I mean? Like I said, I like the player. I get it. I understand the talent is there. It's cool. It's great to look at. It's all cute. But if the Falcons end up being 7-10, T, like, are we gonna turn back and the offense only average 20 points a game?
Right.
Like, why? Why?
Or
I'm gonna be asking why.
Or even if it's 8 and 9, right? And you start looking,
and you miss the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
come
And
on.
you start looking around your own division, where your own division, other than Bryce Young, of course, but your own division leaned defense in the first round.
Elijah Cansey down there in Tampa Bay. Like, nobody saw that coming.
Exactly. Brissy, he went to the Saints. So they're looking at it like, okay, yeah, we have a young core.
If he can stay healthy, T, the Falcons better watch out.
Exactly. That's my point too. Because if you're talking about a young core of quarterbacks in the NFC South, it looks like the other teams are saying, but it's a good core of quarterbacks. So we're about to get ready to make sure that we either get him on the ground or we put some pressure on him. So that was a little bit of a concern. But I wanted to just touch on something else that you said before I move on. And that's, to me, that's very important because you were talking about the fact that you haven't seen from Tyler Algier, what you saw from him, you haven't seen in over 3 decades, right? So that said, That said, now let me switch it up. When is the last time you saw a lights out? Oh my God, the Falcons' top 10 defense, the Falcons' defense is the truth. Has it not also been decades on top of decades? I mean, other than Grady
At
Jarrett,
least 20 years,
yeah.
T.
And I leaned exactly. And I leaned in your direction because I knew that you would be able to like envision the
At
last
least
time
20.
you saw the Falcons in the trenches be able to dictate a game. And
Yeah.
so that I think was my concern as well. Now, of course, Jarvis, yes, there's still the second round, and a guy that you and I like, one whom you've seen up close and personal, Keon White is still out there, and he
He's
is
there.
on most boards. He's being looked at as the best available. So if you're still going with
He's there.
best player available. If BPA is still your thing, well, let us see you go after the likes of a Keon White, or when we go in the other side of the trenches, there are still our guys, Avila and Torrance,
John
that are
Michael
still
Smith.
out.
And John Michael Smith.
And
Yeah,
see,
Torrance is still there too. That
there it
is,
is.
it's some
So
good big boys in that middle on the offensive line. So yeah.
yeah, so we
I don't want to
so I
hear
still like that. Yeah, I still like that. But Jarvis, you also answered another question that I had, which for myself, which was, did the Falcons do enough on the defensive side of the ball in free agency to focus this much on offense so early in the draft? And I have to agree with you. I had said no because I was looking at it from a long-term standpoint, right?
yes.
And yeah, we do have Arnold David KT. I do think that he's going to show up and show out. I think if Richie Grant, I'm just giving a few examples.
Of
I think
course.
Richie Grant, if he comes back healthy, he'll be just fine, so on and so forth. But I'm not sold, for example, on Troy Anderson. So even if you went out there and got yourself a linebacker, I might have been okay because, again, we're looking for dudes,
Yeah.
meaning that person comes and hits the ground running, just like you said, makes an impact now, and
Day
is set
one.
up to make an impact in the future. And I still don't know that the Falcons have that guy. Hopefully, they'll get that guy in the second round because, like we just said, that guy's still out there. But that said, now that they make the choice to go after who's still a generational player, Bijan Robinson, does this mean that the Falcons absolutely have to try to shore up the trenches in the second and third rounds?
They have to, and whether it's on the defensive side or the offensive side, because of what you just mentioned, right? Torrance, Osiris Torrance was projected to go in the back end of the first round. He fell. Avila, he's sitting right there right now, and
Yeah.
also my guy John Michael Smith out of Minnesota. Like, if they draft him, I will be okay. I will almost be at the point where
At peace.
I'll be at peace. I'll be at peace with this draft early right
Yeah.
now. Like, if they draft him, I'll be like, okay, all right, I'm cool
Yep.
now. All right, Terry, do your
We're
thing,
good.
bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like
Mhm.
I like dudes that, like you mentioned, dudes. They're dudes.
Dudes.
Like,
Yeah.
there's some meaning behind that, behind that terminology. When T says dudes and I say dudes, like those are people that you want to be around and guys that you want to see, you want to know, and you know for a fact what they're gonna bring to the table. Am I talking about relationships or football? I don't know, but anyway.
I'm taking notes though, but okay.
But yeah, those are the type of players that I like to watch on every Sunday because T and I have been in that press box. Y'all don't understand how this thing goes. Like, there are certain things that we have become used to, and I am so tired of it. I'm tired of it. Like that. I think people need to understand like where we're coming from when we talk about this whole defense thing, T. Because
Yeah.
we talked about not having a top 10 defense. I think it was 1998,
92? 98? Oh, okay.
98,
Okay.
98. Yeah, the Dirty Bird defense.
Okay.
But and then even in the defense for 2016, it was middle of the road.
It was
But guess
still-
what? They still were able to sack the quarterback and get turnovers because not only did Vic Beasley lead the league in sacks that year, he led the league in forced fumbles, game-changing type stuff, disruptive type stuff.
Right.
They don't have that right now. I'm sorry. I didn't see that from Troy Anderson. I'm sorry. I can't admit that. I didn't see that from Richard Grant last season. I can't admit that.
And
I
Vic
can't
was
sit up
that
here.
guy because he had guys around him. Can you imagine if like a Jalen Carter or some, was, and I don't mean in the same space as Vic, but you know what I mean. If you
Yeah,
got
I know what
this
you mean. Yeah.
guy, and then he's got guys like Calais Campbell and Grady Jarrett, that's where we are. But we stay positive and we say there's still a second round and there's still a guy out there by the name of Keon White. whom Jarvis has seen up front and really, really does think highly of. And we've heard some good things from some scouts, other scouts on him as well, people who believe there's a possibility that he could find his way in Flowery Branch. Now, we just want to thank you guys because we appreciate you so very much for being our
Yes.
everydayers. Listen, we've been having fun in these comments and in these DMs with you guys and your
Yes,
commentary
Lord.
on the draft. Keep it coming because you know
Yeah.
what? We might shout you guys out when we do our complete synopsis and our complete summary, rather, of the entire draft come Monday. So keep it here like you always do. Check us out on YouTube and, of course, wherever you download your podcasts.
But T, this is for the culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, and the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down in the show. Today is no different. So as I'm getting prepared for this whole draft debacle to go down in the first round, was it a debacle? Maybe a little bit extra, but anyway, I saw the news come across my timeline. People start tweeting about one thing, that once that news breaks, it seemed like everybody talking about it. I was like, oh, Lamar Jackson just got paid. So he is now the highest paid salary in 1 year in NFL history. It seems like we've been dropping that every year, it seems like.
Right.
So
Every
whenever
month.
quarterbacks about to get paid, he's about to get the highest salary in NFL history. So, for all those people who were talking about Lamar Jackson, he's an agent. At the end of the day, I'm the type of person where I don't care how you get there as long as you get there. And Lamar Jackson got to where he wanted to be. And I'm okay with that. But T, how about this for the Ravens to kind of add a little sauce to that thing too? They drafted Zay Flowers now. You know how I feel about Zay Flowers, they gave him them flowers, so to speak, on last night and gave him a little help. And, you got Odell Beckham as well. But, how do you think Lamar Jackson is feeling right now in this moment?
Living his life like it's golden. That's
Gotta
how
breathe, right?
my goodness.
Mary style. Yeah, let's
yes,
go.
he got the bag. He got the entire bag. And I loved what Kyle Brandt said on NFL Network, where he said it was the greatest day in the history of employment because not only do you retain your job as the CEO and they give you a golden parachute, but then you already have a COO. You got Odell Beckham. Then they go get you a co-COO. They get you Zay Flowers. You literally had the best employment day ever, but I'm excited for him. I'm saddened for my Steelers, but I'm very excited for Lamar Jackson. But now it's time to show and prove because guess what? You still have to get out of the very difficult AFC North. So good luck.
Yeah, when you think about that conference, right? Not only the division, but the division too. Yeah, division. But yes,
but maybe even the conference, like you said, because you still could get the wild card. You're right. You're right about that conference.
Yeah, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, so whoever gets to the AFC, the Super Bowl out of the AFC, they're going to be the favorite. And I think that I like the cool thing about it though, T, is we can put Lamar Jackson in the conversation with those guys I just mentioned. And he should be. And when you talk about from a money standpoint, he should be as well. So as far as him having something to prove and proving that he's that type of guy, I looked at those people and I kind of rolled my eyes. But yeah, shout out to Lamar for getting paid. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate him, for standing on his own too and saying, you know what? This is the route I'm going to take, and I'm going to stick with it. So, yeah, I really appreciate Lamar for doing that.
And we'd be remiss if we didn't really quickly talk about it because we always talk about our favorite moment of any draft. So, real quick, what was your favorite moment of the draft, at least night one?
You know what? To be honest with you, T, I love it's something that I like about Anthony Richardson, because, watching him play, I was like, all right, this is not a first round quarterback. But as he did a piece in the athletic, not the athletic, but I forgot the website that the athletes write. They write their stories. Players Tribune, yes. And it was just a really good story. The dude comes from a good space, and his uncle, took care of him and everything. And now he's no longer here. He passed away. And I think that, so I think it's for him to kind of continue that and that legacy that his uncle taught him. It's really cool to see. So, yeah, that was my favorite part.
I like that. I like that a lot. And for me, I think my favorite was, and I don't like anything Houston. Let me just say that. However, I really like that boss move they made. They were like, yep, we got our quarterback, but guess what else we got? Will Anderson. So D'Amico Ryans, I feel like they're finally setting up a coach for
Yeah.
success, because I really felt like they did not set up Lovie Smith for success. And forgive me for forgetting the old OC for the Ravens who became the head coach for the Texans just before Lovie Smith. But they definitely, I think David Whitley or something like that. They
David
definitely
Culley.
exactly. They
Yeah.
definitely set him up for failure. I
Oh,
feel
that
like
was
with D'Amico Ryans,
true
first of
setup.
all, D'Amico wouldn't have taken this job if he didn't feel like they were going to set him up for success. But to come out of the gates and tell him that they're committed to giving him a team that can contend in the AFC South, that was my favorite moment. Boss move, straight up.
Yeah, yeah. When you talking about getting those type two guys, the second best quarterback in this draft, in this class, and then Will Anderson, the best edge player, from a consensus standpoint in this draft as well. So yeah, I love it. I appreciate those guys being super aggressive, because I'm rooting for D'Amico Ryans. I don't care what y'all say. Like I like his stilo, I like his get down, and I have no qualms about saying that they're on the right track when they hired that guy. And this draft is a good doggone start. We appreciate you guys for getting off to a good start on a good Friday by making ATL Day One your first listen of the day. And also, we want to give a quick shout out to our everydayers. Those are the people who listen to this show each and every day. If you don't do that, what are you waiting on? We need you to get your life together and become an everydayer. But folks, coming up on Monday, though, we will dive into where the Hawks are headed. And is the future bright? That's on Monday. So make sure you just stick around for that. And last but not least, before we get out of here, share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.